the frame, I guess, for the day. I mean, all of these things in one way or another funnel back into the idea that America has functionally ceased to be a functional republic. We are no longer a democratic republic. We have a Supreme Court that has taken on the role of constitutional monarchs, striking down laws and literally inventing legal doctrine out of thin air, pulling it out of their backside. Right? Oh, yeah, 1976. Oh, yeah, spending money on politics, that's protected by the First Amendment. Back in 1886, well, it wasn't actually, but a little after. Oh, yeah, corporations, sure, they have rights under the 14th Amendment. They're the same thing as people, you know? And then Mitt Romney, corporations are people, my friend. Right. So, you know, there's just this whole giant effort. It's almost like I was walking into work this morning. I was thinking, I was reflecting back on when I was writing the crash of 2016, and in the crash of 2016, there is, I basically outlined this whole conspiracy, how this thing got pulled together. In fact, this is from page 34. Lewis F. Powell Jr. was just sitting down to breakfast in his suite at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel in New York City when he received a call from the White House. The year was 71, more than 40 years since the last great crash. The 60s had ended. The Vietnam War destroyed the Democratic Party, leaving Richard Nixon as president, and Nixon needed a favor. And then it goes on to, Nixon wanted to put Powell on the Supreme Court. However, just a few months before he was nominated by Nixon, Powell had written a memo to his good friend Eugene Sindor, Jr., the director of the United States Chamber of Commerce. And in that memo, that famous Powell memo, it was investigative journalist, by the way, Jack Anderson, exposed this in September of 72. Anderson wrote, shortly before his appointment to the Supreme Court, Justice Lewis F. Powell Jr. urged business leaders in a confidential memo to use the courts as a social, economic, and political instrument. Anderson wrote, senators never got a chance to ask Powell whether he might use his position on the Supreme Court to put his ideas into practice and to influence the court on behalf of big business interests. In the report, Anderson writes, Powell recommended a militant political action campaign ranging from the courts to the campuses. Now, this is how Powell started out the Powell memo. He says, no thoughtful person can question that the American economic system is under broad attack. Keep in mind, this was 1971. He was responding. In fact, he called out by name Ralph Nader and Rachel Carlson. Basically what he was saying, and this, again, quoting from page 37 of my book, The Crash of 2016, if only they could find a way to wiggle back into the people's minds who are just beginning to forget the economic royalist previous exploits of the 1920s, and they could get their tax cuts back. They could trash the burdensome regulations that were keeping the air we breathe, the water we drink, and the food we eat safe. And the banksters among them could inflate another massive economic bubble, like they did in the 20s. To make themselves all mind-bogglingly rich. It could, if done right, be a return to the roaring 20s. But how do they do this? This is the Powell memo. It's a 6,000-word memo. As Powell wrote, strength lies in organization, in careful long-range planning and implementation, in consistency of action over an indefinite period of years, in the scale of financing available only through joint effort, and in the political power available only through united action and national organizations. The role of the National Chamber of Commerce is therefore vital. Now, at that point in 1971, the Chamber of Commerce had never involved itself in politics. They didn't endorse politicians. They didn't endorse political positions. But Powell says we need to revive the royalist-controlled so-called free market system. Or here's how Powell put it in the Powell memo. The ultimate issue is the survival of what we call the free enterprise system and all that this means for the strength and prosperity of America and the freedom of our people. This is a priority task for business and organizations such as the Chamber is to address the campus origins of this hostility. You know that the Koch brothers are funding professors in over 100 American universities and colleges to teach everything from economics to sociology with a right-wing spin to it? What worried Powell, I'm quoting myself in the book here, what worried Powell, the book Crash of 2016, was the new generation of young Americans growing up to resent corporate culture. He believed colleges were filled with Marxist professors and that the pro-business agenda of Harding, Coolidge, and Hoover had fallen into disrepute because of the Great Depression. And then to go after the textbooks, he says the chamber should consider establishing a staff of highly qualified scholars in the social sciences. The staff of scholars, Powell wrote, should evaluate social science textbooks, especially in economics, political science, and sociology. This would include assurance of fair and factual treatment of our system of government and our enterprise system, its accomplishments, its basic relationship to individual rights and freedoms, and comparison with the system of socialism, fascism, and communism. Which leads me to a piece of legislation sitting in front of the legislature of the state of Virginia right now. West Virginia. Right. And this is absolutely mind-boggling. I mean, it's absolutely mind-boggling. This is House Bill 2107, introduced January 20th of this year, referred to the Committee on Education and the Judiciary by delegates Overton, Ambler, Foster, you don't know their names. Anyhow, here, this is from a bill to amend and reenact the Code of West Virginia, prohibiting the study of social programs, economics, foreign affairs, the United Nations, world government, socialism, or communism until basic courses in American state and local geography and history are completed with a misdemeanor penalty. They want to put teachers in prison. If they talk. This is insane. Before students may participate in secondary level courses involving the study of social problems, the United Nations, or communism, pupils shall first have...
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-536-2370.
Shall first have completed basic instruction in the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States, written, of course, by right-wingers.